Hey you guys, welcome back. Let's try and finish this study guide in this video. I think we can do it. Let's look at this one. Now, before I go into this, I did just want to say on the last question we did, this one right here, the 5y plus 3 equals negative 12, I got y equals negative 3. That is correct, but I should always go and check my work. Now, I know y is negative 3. If I went back over here and substituted negative 3 for y, let's see, 5 times negative 3 plus 3. That should give me this negative 12. Let me use my calculator to double check that. All right. 5 times negative 3 plus 3. It gives me negative 12, which is exactly what I was going for. So I know I did it correctly. Let's look at this one. Negative 7a minus 12 equals 2. So looking at this one, I have to get rid of the constant first. We always eliminate the constant first. The constant here is negative 12 because this is really plus negative 12. But you know what? If I don't change it to plus and negative, this makes it a little simpler because I'm trying to get rid of subtracting 12. I do that by adding 12. If you changed it to plus and negative, you just have to think, how do I get rid of a negative 12? We know that additive inverse property, so negative 12 plus 12. That gives me 0, which is exactly what I want. I'll add 12 over here. I'm left with negative 7a equals 14. So now I have to get rid of this negative 7 with that variable. It's currently being multiplied by that variable, so I'm going to go ahead and divide it. I'll divide it by negative 7 on both sides. A is equal to 14 divided by negative 7, that's negative 2. One thing that I saw some kids do, they had this problem, something similar on their quiz, and they would try and do this. They want to go and divide by positive 7. They thought I had to change the sign of that number. Because I think up here they thought they're changing the sign. This is not a positive, and this is not, actually, where's another example? Yeah, whenever I'm talking about this is not a positive 12. This is not a negative 3. These are operations. This is adding 12. This is subtracting 3. It's really important that we talk about the inverse operation. So whenever I try and get rid of this negative 7, I'm going to divide by negative 7 because that divides out and I'm left with 1, which is exactly what I want. So just be careful. We never change the sign on any of these numbers. Anytime we do the inverse operation, we never change the sign. All we're changing is the operation. The number is always the same. Let's look at this one. X over 3 plus 5 equals 8. So first step, eliminate the constant. This plus 5, I'm going to eliminate that by subtracting 5. Subtract 5 over here. Now I'm left with x divided by 3 equals 3. Because this is just 8 minus 5. So now I got to get rid of this 3 down here. We have to remember that this is just telling us it's currently x divided by 3. To get rid of dividing by 3, I'm going to do the opposite and multiply by 3. That reduces down. 3 divided by 3, that's 1 right there. So now I have to multiply by 3 on the other side. X is equal to 9. Kids always get a little intimidated when they see x over a number because the fraction is immediately a little scary, and I get it, I've been there. But this is only telling me that I'm currently doing x divided by 3. So to get rid of dividing by 3, I'm going to do the opposite and multiply by 3. Let's scroll down and look at the next one. Let me get over here and give this an erase. There we go. Let's scroll down. All right, let's look at these equations. Now, this one right here says 3 plus x over 2 equals negative 5. Now, this looks a little different because the 3, the constant, is coming first in the equation. That makes no difference. If you wanted to rewrite it, x over 2 plus 3 equals negative 5, to make sure the variable comes first, you totally can, but you don't have to. The same rules still apply. I have to get rid of the constant first. I have to eliminate the constant. So this 3 is the constant because it is a number by itself without a variable. I need to get rid of that 3. The only way to get rid of 3 is to subtract 3. 3 minus 3 gives me 0, which is exactly what I want. I'll subtract 3 on the other side, so now I'm left with x over 2 equals negative 5 minus 3. That's negative 8. Again, if you're not really sure that that gives you negative 8, use your calculator. You can use these on the test now, so please make sure you utilize the calculator. Now I have x divided by 2 equals negative 8. In order to get rid of dividing by 2, I'm going to do the inverse operation and multiply by 2. I do it on both sides. Remember, we always do these things on both sides of the equal sign. That reduces down to leave me with a 1. Now I'm left with x is equal to negative 8 times 2. That gives me negative 16. Use your calculator if you're not sure about the negative rules, okay? This one over here, negative 2x minus 8 equals negative 12. Step number 1, I had to get rid of the constant, the number by itself. I'm going to get rid of this subtracting 8 by adding 8. That simplifies and reduces down to 0, cancels out. I'll add 8 over here. So now I'm left with negative 2x equals negative 12 plus 8. That gives me negative 4. I'll divide both sides by negative 2. These reduce down to 1. I'm left with x is equal to negative 4 divided by negative 2. That's just positive 2. Use your calculator if you're not sure about the negative rules, okay? Let's look at the next one. Y divided by negative 4 minus 9 equals negative 13. Rule number 1, always eliminate the constant first. I got to get rid of this minus 9. The way I do that is by adding 9. 9 cancels out, leaves me with 0. I'll add 9 over here. Now I'm left with y over negative 4 equals negative 13 plus 9. That gives me negative 4. So now this is currently y divided by negative, that's a negative 4. There we go. If I want to get rid of this dividing by negative 4, I'm going to do the opposite and multiply by negative 4. And remember, I always use parentheses because that reminds me to multiply. That reduces down and leaves me with 1. I'll do the same exact thing over here, multiply by negative 4. Now remember, whenever you're writing this, just be really careful that whenever you're doing this, you don't think it's negative 4 minus 4. All right, this is not a subtraction sign. This is multiplying by a negative 4. The parentheses, whenever I set this up, always remind me to multiply. Just be careful when you're doing this on your own, okay? Hang on 1 second. The pen died. Let me see if I can plug it in and get it going again. 1 second. It's been telling me low battery for days now, and I just ignored it. Let's see if this will turn back on. I'm not sure. Let's see. Can we turn it on and charge at the same time? Wow, we can. That's awesome. Good to know. All right, so now I'm left with y. Oh, no. Oh, wait, no, that's the eraser. Let's see if this works. Awesome, it does. Now I'm left with y equals negative 4 multiplied by negative 4. That just gives me positive 16. And I forgot to mention this the last couple problems, but I really want to make sure you know you have a calculator. If you get one of these answers, x equals something, y equals something, go and make sure that's correct. If I'm looking at this problem right here, y equals 16, let me go and substitute 16 in for y. So I'm going to, in my calculator, just write this. I'm going to put 16 divided by negative 4 plus 9. I just rewrote this expression right here, not the negative 13 part. Just 16 plus negative 4, or I'm sorry, divided by negative 4 equals 1 second. I think I might have made a mistake. Hang on 1 second. Let me give this an erase so I can see a little better. 1 second, you guys. Oh, see, I had marked it out. I thought that said plus 9. So let me go plug this back in. In my calculator, I'm going to use 16 for y divided by negative 4 minus 9, and I get negative 13. Can you see it in the calculator? Is it backwards maybe? No, it actually works. Wow, 16 divided by negative 4 minus 9 equals negative 13. You don't have to use PEMDAS whenever you're trying to put this in your calculator because every calculator already comes equipped with the order of operations, PEMDAS. So you don't have to think about that. So I'm just going to put it straight in there as it was written, and I should get negative 13. Same thing on the other ones. Go and substitute whatever you get for your variable back inside there and double check that you did it correctly. All right? It should give you the same answer over here to make sure you did it right. Let's look at the next one. Negative 8 plus x over negative 6 equals negative 11. So, first rule, eliminate the constant. I always leave the stuff with the variable till last. So, eliminate the constant, I have a negative 8. The only way to get rid of a negative 8 and cancel it out to 0 is to add 8. Negative 8 plus 8, that leaves me with 0. Add 8 over here. I'm left with x divided by negative 6 equals negative 11 plus 8, that's negative 3. So now I have x divided by negative 6. To get rid of that, I'm going to multiply by negative 6. and that reduces down to 1. Multiply by negative 6 over here as well. And now I'm left with x is equal to negative 3 times negative 6. That gives me 18. And in my calculator, I'm going to go and plug that back in to double check my work. So I'm going to write in my calculator this expression. Let me give that an erase so I can see it a little clearer. In my calculator, I'm going to go write negative 8 plus 18, because x is 18, divided by negative 6. And it should give me negative 11, and it does. Did it right. So I know x is 18. These equations are great because you can always double check your work. Now this one over here, 23 equals negative 8x plus 7. This one looks a little different because the 23, the answer is on the left side of the equal sign. That is not a problem. This is an equation. It's an equal sign. Both sides are equal to each other. You can put it on either side you want. Most of the time we happen to see it written like this. Negative 8x plus 7 equals 23. That's because you can put it anywhere. I could switch it around like this or use it like this. So on your test, if you happen to see one, you could switch it around just like I did here, or you don't have to. And I'm not going to do that here just to show you what it looks like. So 23 equals negative 8x plus 7. Step number 1, eliminate the constant on the side with the variable. This plus 7 is on the side with the variable, with that x. So I'm going to get rid of that plus 7. I'll do that by subtracting 7. Subtract 7 over here. 23 minus 7, that gives me 16, equals negative 8x. I got to get rid of that negative 8 because it's with the variable right now. I'll divide both sides by negative 8. Remember how the number doesn't change. It's still negative 8 and negative 8. I just am dividing by that negative 8. Do the same thing over here. 16 divided by negative 8 is negative 2, equals x. Go check your work. Go substitute negative 2 in for x in the original equation. So I'm going to put negative 8 times negative 2 plus 7. And it gives me 23, which is exactly what I wanted. I know I did it correctly. Let's look at the last equation over here. Negative x minus 10 equals negative 5. Step number 1, always eliminate the constant. This right now is minus 10, subtracting 10. I'm going to eliminate that by adding 10. That cancels out to 0. I'll add 10 over here. Now I'm left with negative x equals 5. Some kids would just circle this as their answer and be done with it. That is not correct, though. If you put this on your test, I couldn't give you full credit. The reason is because we're never solving for negative x. I never want you to tell me what negative x is. I want you to tell me what x is. We're looking for x equals, not negative x equals. So whenever we see a problem like this, we have to remember that anytime there's no coefficient in front of the variable, there is always a 1. And this specifically is a negative 1. I have to get rid of that negative 1. So I'm going to do that by dividing both sides by negative 1. Because negative 1 divided by negative 1 is just a positive 1. And that's the number I want in front of my variable, a positive 1. I'll do the same thing over here, divide by negative 1. So 5 divided by negative 1, that's negative 5. Now, let me go and plug this back in and use substitution and see if I get the right answer. So in my calculator, I'm going to have negative 5 minus 10, and it gives me negative 5, which is exactly what I'm looking for. Now, this is a little confusing because when I plug it back in my calculator, I have to remember this is essentially negative 1x. So when I plug it in, I'm looking for negative 1 times negative 5 minus 10. All right? So in my calculator, I would put negative 1 times negative 5 minus 10. And I get negative 5. But of course, if you left off that negative 1, the calculator automatically knows that's what the coefficient's supposed to be on the outside. So see how I have a negative right on the outside of that top expression. Still gives me the same answer. All right? So that's the equations. We're going to have one more part for this study guide, one more video to go because we have some word problems at the end. But thank you guys for sticking around, and we will finish the study guide in the next video.